Oh, not the first slide. ഇത് വേണ്ട.
നമ്മൾ തുടങ്ങാൻ പോവാണ്. ഓക്കെ, ഏറ്റവും സ്നേഹം നിറഞ്ഞ ഡോക്ടർ ജോർജ് ജോൺ, പിന്നെ ഇതിൽ പങ്കെടുക്കുന്ന ഏറ്റവും പ്രിയമുള്ള സുഹൃത്തുക്കളെ, ഞങ്ങളെല്ലാവരും നിവേദിതയുടെ പല കോഴ്സുകൾ അറ്റൻഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നവരും അല്ലാത്തവരുമായിട്ടുള്ളവരുണ്ട്. എല്ലാവരെയും ഏറ്റവും സ്നേഹപൂർവ്വം ഞാൻ അഭിസംബോധന ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ട് ഒരു വാക്ക് ഇൻട്രൊഡക്ഷൻ പറയാനായിട്ട് ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്നു. ഏറ്റവും പ്രധാനമായിട്ട് ഡോക്ടറെ ഒന്ന് ഇൻട്രൊഡ്യൂസ് ചെയ്യാന്നുള്ളത് ഏറ്റവും അത്യാവശ്യമായിട്ടുള്ളൊരു കാര്യമാണ്. കാരണം നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും തന്നെ ഡോക്ടർ ജോർജ് ഒരു പുതിയ ആളാണ്, നിങ്ങൾ പരിചയപ്പെട്ട് കാണില്ല. ഡോക്ടർ ജോർജിനെ കുറിച്ച് പറയാനാണെങ്കിൽ വളരെയധികം കാര്യങ്ങൾ പറയാനുണ്ട്. ഒത്തിരി വിശേഷണങ്ങളുള്ള ഒരു വ്യക്തിത്വമാണ് ഡോക്ടർ ജോർജ്. അദ്ദേഹം ഇപ്പോൾ അദ്ദേഹം ആയിരിക്കുന്നത് നമ്മുടെ കടവന്ത്രയിൽ അല്പം ഉള്ളിലേക്ക് കയറി കഴിയുമ്പോൾ അവിടെയാണ് താമസിക്കുന്നത്. വളരെ മനോഹരമായിട്ട് കായലിന്റെ തീരത്തുള്ളൊരു വീട്ടിലാണ്. അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ വൈഫ് ഇവിടെയുണ്ട്. അദ്ദേഹം ദീർഘകാലം പഠനവും പ്രവർത്തനവും, ഒരു സൈക്യാട്രിസ്റ്റ് എന്ന നിലയിലുള്ള പ്രവർത്തനവുമായിട്ട് ഇംഗ്ലണ്ടിലായിരുന്നു ഫോർ എ വെരി ലോങ് പീരീഡ്. അവിടെ അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ 2 മക്കളും, അവിടെ ഒരാൾ സ്റ്റേറ്റ്സിൽ ഒരാൾ ഇംഗ്ലണ്ടിലൊക്കെ ആയിട്ട് ഹൈലി പ്ലേസ്ഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള രീതിയിൽ അവരുടെ കുടുംബമായിട്ട് ജീവിക്കുന്നു. അദ്ദേഹം ഡോക്ടർ ജോർജും വൈഫും ഇവിടെ കടവന്ത്രയിലാണ്. അദ്ദേഹം അവിടുന്ന് ഇംഗ്ലണ്ടിൽ നിന്ന് തിരിച്ചു പോരാനായിട്ട് തീരുമാനിച്ചതൊക്കെ അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ വൈഫിനുള്ള ആരോഗ്യപരമായ ചില ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടുകൾ കണക്കിലെടുത്തിട്ടാണ്. ഇപ്പൊ അദ്ദേഹം ഒത്തിരിയേറെ അറിവും അനുഭവ സമ്പത്തുമുള്ള ഡോക്ടർ ജോർജ് ആസ് എ സൈക്യാട്രിസ്റ്റ്, ഒരു എഴുത്തുകാരൻ, ഒരു ഗ്രന്ഥകാരൻ, എസ്സയിസ്റ്റ്, അങ്ങനെ പലതരത്തിലുള്ള അറിവും അനുഭവവും ഒക്കെ ഡോക്ടർക്കുണ്ട്. അങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ ആണെങ്കിലും അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ ക്ലിനിക്കൽ പ്രാക്ടീസ്, ഒരു സൈക്യാട്രിസ്റ്റ് എന്ന നിലയിലുള്ള പ്രാക്ടീസ് അദ്ദേഹം തൽക്കാലത്തേക്കല്ല, വൈഫിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് നിർത്തിയിരിക്കുകയാണ്. എന്നിട്ട് വൈഫിനെ കെയർ ചെയ്യാൻ, വൈഫിനോട് കൂടെ ആയിരിക്കാൻ അദ്ദേഹം മുഴുവൻ സമയം ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്ന ഏറ്റവും മഹനീയമായ ഒരു വ്യക്തിത്വമാണ് ഡോക്ടർ ജോർജിൻ്റെത്. അദ്ദേഹം ഒരു റിട്ടയേർഡ് ബ്രിട്ടീഷ് കൺസൾട്ടന്റ് സൈക്യാട്രിസ്റ്റ് ആണ്. പിന്നെ ബ്രിട്ടനിൽ പ്രൈവറ്റ് സൈക്യാട്രിക് കൺസൾട്ടൻസി പ്രാക്ടീസ് അത് തുടങ്ങിയതിൽ മുൻനിരയിൽ നിൽക്കുന്ന വ്യക്തിയാണ് ഡോക്ടർ ജോർജ്. അദ്ദേഹം സിഗ്നറ്റ് ഹോസ്പിറ്റൽ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന UK വളരെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട ഒരു ഹോസ്പിറ്റലുണ്ട്. മെന്റൽ ഹെൽത്ത് ഹോസ്പിറ്റലാണ്. എസ്പെഷ്യലി അധികം സ്ത്രീകളെ ഉദ്ദേശിച്ച് നടത്തപ്പെടുന്നതാണെന്ന് ഞാൻ മനസ്സിലാക്കുന്നു. ആ ഹോസ്പിറ്റലിന്റെ ഫൗണ്ടർ ഡയറക്ടർ കൂടിയാണ് അദ്ദേഹം. പിന്നെ അദ്ദേഹത്തെ കുറിച്ച് വിശേഷണങ്ങൾ പറയാൻ ഒത്തിരിയേറെ ഉണ്ട്. ഇവിടെ തന്നെ നമ്മൾ ഇവിടെ പ്രോജക്റ്റിൽ പ്രസന്റ് ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്ന ആ പ്രസന്റേഷനിൽ തന്നെ പല കാര്യങ്ങൾ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് മനസ്സിലാക്കാനായിട്ട് പറ്റും. അദ്ദേഹം റോയൽ കോളേജ് ഓഫ് സൈക്യാട്രിസ്റ്റിലെ ലണ്ടൻ, അവിടുത്തെ അതിന്റെ ഫെലോ ആയിട്ട് അദ്ദേഹം മെമ്പർഷിപ്പ് ഉള്ള ആളാണ്. നേരത്തെ അദ്ദേഹം ഫെലോ ഓഫ് ഇന്റർനാഷണൽ മെഡിക്കൽ സയൻസസ് അക്കാഡമിയുടെയും കറസ്പോണ്ടിങ് മെമ്പറായിട്ട് അമേരിക്കൻ സൈക്യാട്രിക് അസോസിയേഷന്റെയും ഒക്കെ പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങളിൽ പങ്കുചേർന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഇപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞതുപോലെ അദ്ദേഹം ഒരു ഫ്രീലാൻസ് റൈറ്ററാണ്. അദ്ദേഹം പഠിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള വിഷയങ്ങളുമായിട്ട് ബന്ധപ്പെട്ടും ഒക്കെ അദ്ദേഹം ഒത്തിരിയേറെ ആർട്ടിക്കിൾസ് നാഷണൽ ഇന്റർനാഷണൽ ജേർണലുകളിൽ പ്രസിദ്ധീകരിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. നമ്മുടെ ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് സത്യദീപം, അതിലും അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ ആർട്ടിക്കിള് വളരെ വളരെ ഡെപ്തുള്ള ആർട്ടിക്കിൾസ് പലപ്പോഴും ഒക്കെ വരാറുണ്ട്. അപ്പൊ ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള ബഹുമുഖ പ്രതിഭയാണെന്ന് വിശേഷിപ്പിക്കാവുന്ന ഡോക്ടർ ജോർജ് ജോൺ ഇന്ന് ഈ സായാഹ്നത്തിൽ നമുക്ക് വേണ്ടി സംസാരിക്കാനായിട്ട് ഇവിടെ ഉണ്ടാകുക എന്നുള്ളത് വലിയ സന്തോഷകരമായ കാര്യമാണ്. നമുക്കത് വലിയൊരു പ്രിവിലേജ് കൂടിയാണ്. അദ്ദേഹം സംസാരിക്കുന്നത് വളരെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട ഒരു വിഷയത്തെക്കുറിച്ചാണ്. ജോലിയിടങ്ങളിലെ തൊഴിലിടങ്ങളിൽ ഉണ്ടാകേണ്ട വൈകാരികമായ ഒരു സ്ഥിരത, അതിന്റെ പ്രാധാന്യത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് സംസാരിക്കുന്നു. അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ ഇന്ന് നമ്മൾ പലയിടത്തും കാണുന്ന ടോക്സിക് ആയിട്ടുള്ള വർക്ക് കൾച്ചർ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ വിഷമയമായ തൊഴിൽ സംസ്കാരത്തെക്കുറിച്ച്, അതിന്റെ ബാക്ക്ഗ്രൗണ്ടിലാണ് അദ്ദേഹം ഇമോഷണൽ സ്റ്റെബിലിറ്റി അല്ലെങ്കിൽ വൈകാരികമായ ഒരു സ്ഥിരത നമ്മൾ എന്തുമാത്രം കാത്തു സൂക്ഷിക്കണം എന്നുള്ള ആ വിഷയത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് കൂടി സംസാരിക്കുക. ഇതിലെല്ലാം അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ അറിവും അനുഭവവും ഒത്തിരിയേറെ നമുക്ക് ഉൾക്കാഴ്ചകൾ നൽകുന്നതാണ്, കാഴ്ചപ്പാടുകൾ നൽകുന്നതാണ്, അറിവ് നൽകുന്നതായിരിക്കും. അപ്പൊ നിങ്ങളുടെ എല്ലാവരുടെയും പേരിൽ ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഇവിടുത്തെ നിവേദിത ജോപ്പോളച്ചൻ, പിന്നെ എന്റെയും ഇവിടെയുള്ള സകലരുടെയും പേരിൽ ഡോക്ടർ ജോർജ് ജോണിനെ ഈ ഒരു വെബിനാറിലേക്ക് ഏറ്റവും സ്നേഹപൂർവ്വം സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുന്നു. അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ പല തിരക്കുകൾ ഉണ്ടായിട്ടും വളരെ താല്പര്യം കാണിച്ച് ഈ ഒരു വെബിനാറിൽ പങ്കെടുക്കാനായിട്ട് സന്നിഹിതരായിരിക്കുന്ന നിങ്ങളെല്ലാവരെയും, പല തുറകളിലുള്ളവരുണ്ട്, ജീവിതത്തിന്റെ പല ഫീൽഡിൽ വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നവരും ഒക്കെ ആയിട്ടുള്ളവരാണ്. എല്ലാവരെയും ഏറ്റവും സ്നേഹപൂർവ്വം സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുന്നു. ജർമ്മനിയിൽ നിന്നുള്ള നമ്മുടെ സിസ്റ്റേഴ്സും വളരെ സ്നേഹത്തോടു കൂടി ഇതിൽ പങ്കെടുക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. നാട്ടിലുള്ളവരും ഒക്കെ ഒത്തിരിയേറെ ഞങ്ങളുടെ കോഴ്സുകളിൽ പങ്കെടുക്കുന്നവരും അല്ലാത്തവരുമായിട്ടുള്ള എല്ലാവരെയും ഏറ്റവും സ്നേഹപൂർവ്വം ഈ വെബിനാറിലേക്ക് സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുന്നു. ഡോക്ടർ ജോർജ് ജോൺ, hello.
Yes.
Dr. George John, it is time for you to start.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on which part of the world you're joining us from today.
Good evening,
I
sir.
feel great. Can I continue?
You can
Sure, sir.
I feel greatly honored and delighted to speak. I'm a Malayali, by the way, but not Joe's and Joe Paul Paranu, Achan, to speak in Malayalam, but I find it a little bit difficult. I'm sure all of you will clearly understand what I'm talking about. And I would even say that you can ask questions in Malayalam, but I might answer you in English. I'm terribly sorry, but I'm sure you'll forgive me because I'm afraid I think in English. It depends on a medium. This is a very big topic about communication and its importance of it. Anyway, I feel greatly honored and delighted to speak at such a distinguished group of professionals, nurses, teachers. These two professions are the twin pillars of compassion and knowledge in any society. And may I say, what a unique blessing and a blessed combination you all are. The ones who heal bodies and the ones who shape the minds. If you all decided to form a political party, I suspect the world would be a much kinder and a wiser place. It is no coincidence that many of you are Malayalis like me. A people known for their education, their discipline, and capacity for hard work. As a retired British consultant psychiatrist with a long-standing admiration of Kerala's contribution to the global workforce, I must say this. If you ever go to a hospital in the Western Hemisphere and don't find at least one Malayali nurse, you might be in the wrong building. Your commitment and resilience are legendary. But today, I want to turn the spotlight onto something you might not have always focused on. That is your own emotional well-being. Because whilst you're busy caring for patients or nurturing the minds of students, it is not easy to, it is indeed easy to overlook the quiet pressures building up within you. And trust me, believe me when I tell you, emotional exhaustion does not always come with flashing warning signs. Sometimes it creeps in quietly and it steals your joy. The modern workplace, essentially in healthcare and education, can often be a battlefield of expectations, of deadlines. I think you're all familiar with it. Of conflicting demands and personalities ranging from the mildly eccentric to the thoroughly toxic people. You know the kind of toxic colleagues I mean. I'm sure you've all come across it. The one who thinks teamwork means everyone else doing the work whilst they take the credit. Are you familiar with this? I'm sure you are. If you can't think of anyone like that, well, I'm sorry to say it might be you. But humor aside, this is serious matter. Emotional stability at work is not just a luxury. It is a necessity for your own health, your family, and the people you serve. And toxic work cultures, which normalize overwork, undervalue kindness, and reward manipulation, that can chip away at your own self-worth and your mental balance without you even realizing it. So, in our time together today, let us look closely and honestly at how to protect and nurture emotional stability, especially in the face of toxicity that sometimes hides behind titles, hides behind traditions, or even just polite smiles. I hope you understand what I'm saying. മനസ്സിലാകുന്നുണ്ടല്ലോ?
Yes, sir. Yes. Please.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Let us explore what emotional hygiene really means. Sorry. Sorry. Something went off. I do apologize. Right. I'm back. Let us explore what emotional hygiene really means. After all, you wouldn't reuse a dirty syringe or a chalk from last year, would you? So why reuse stress and pain from yesterday without processing it? Once again, I thank you for being here and for what you do every day and for giving me the privilege of addressing you. Let us begin. Now, we are here today to discuss a topic of paramount importance: maintaining emotional stability at work. In your own capacities, I believe that you're all future leaders and professionals. Understanding and managing your emotions will be crucial to your success and your well-being. So, what you see on your screen is the impact of emotional instability. What does it do to your professional life? It decreases your performance and your productivity. It strains relationships with your colleagues, and it gives rise to higher absenteeism. Sorry, keep the first slide, please. Yes. Higher absenteeism and emotional turnover. On your personal life, it increases your stress and anxiety, gives you sleep disturbances, and you will suffer from a variety of health issues. It reduces overall life satisfaction. Next slide, please. And why is emotional stability, why does it matter in the workplace? An emotionally stable employee will have the following characteristics. They are able to handle criticism constructively rather than take it personally, making rational, well thought out decisions instead of reacting impulsively. An emotionally stable employee builds strong personal relationships with colleagues, which enhances their teamwork. They maintain resilience in the face of setbacks rather than becoming overwhelmed by it. In today's lecture, we will explore what emotional stability is, why it matters, what constitutes toxic work culture, the psychological and physical impact of toxicity at work. Also, how leaders and employees can foster emotional stability together. And lastly, but not the least, redefining what success is. It calls for a healthier workplace. Let's begin. Emotional stability. Now, emotional stability is the unsung hero of professional success. Emotional stability refers to a person's ability to remain calm and composed under stress. It is the ability to regulate emotions, navigate workplace challenges, and maintain mental clarity in difficult situations. So an emotionally stable employee handles criticism constructively, makes rational, well-thought-out decisions instead of reacting impulsively, and builds strong personal relationships with colleagues. Can we have the next slide, please? Yes. Why does emotional stability matter in the workplace? As I said, it enhances productivity. Emotionally stable employees are less reactive to stress, and they are more focused. It encourages better leadership. A leader who lacks emotional stability will spread insecurity among their team. I'm sure as I'm speaking, you will all be familiar with your personal experiences of having had poor quality leaders. I can't emphasize its importance in all walks of life. Thirdly, it improves workplace relationships. Workplaces thrive on collaboration, communication, and mutual respect. However, when emotional stability is absent, when stress levels become unsustainable, toxic work cultures very often take root. Next slide, please. So, what constitutes a toxic work culture? Toxic work cultures is not defined by hard work, but by the lack of psychological safety. Indicators of toxic work cultures are excessive workload with no concern for employee well-being. I'm sure you're familiar with that. Micromanagement and a culture of fear. As Father Joseph told you, I have myself been a man of responsibility in my earlier life. And if I, running a hospital, if I entrust certain responsibilities to a certain qualified person, I will not go after them to say how they have done it, whether they have turned left or right. That's not my job. It is their job to manage their work. So micromanagement, wherever you see it, it will only result in producing a culture of fear. Secondly, expectation. What is expected of you? It should be clear. Unclear expectations lead to chronic stress. Then it comes to lack of appreciation and recognition. What do human beings basically want? They want to be appreciated. They need to be recognized. Therefore, encouraging competition over collaboration leads certainly to hostility. Tolerating workplace bullying, discrimination, or harassment, it's a big, big no-no. Expecting employees to be available 24/7, disregarding personal time, is a very, very bad thing, and I cannot overemphasize it. Toxic cultures thrive in environments where profit and prestige matter more than people. Unfortunately, in many corporate settings, employees become expendable resources rather than valued individuals. Next slide, please. The psychological and physical impact of toxicity at work. A toxic workplace doesn't just ruin careers, it damages mental and physical health. And these are the psychological consequences. Chronic stress and anxiety. Employees in toxic workplaces develop heightened cortisol levels. You're all familiar with cortisol, leading to chronic anxiety and burnout. It leads to depression and emotional exhaustion. Continuous exposure to negativity, bullying, or unreasonable expectations fosters emotional detachment and loss of motivation. Next is very important. Have you all heard about the imposter syndrome? And imposter syndrome is now, it is not in any psychiatric classificatory nomenclature. It's not an illness. This is a feature that has been noted, well recognized. It commonly affects women more than men. When employees begin to question their own abilities in an environment where constructive feedback is not given, they don't feel that they are good enough. And they feel they are unworthy individuals who are just placed in a situation and as if they are pretending and play acting in the role that they are given. It leads to loss of creativity. Toxicity stifles innovative thinking. This is most important. Employees work, and such an environment, employees work to survive, not to thrive. So what are the physical consequences? There you have it on your screen now. Increased risk of cardiovascular diseases. Prolonged stress leads to high blood pressure, heart disease, and metabolic syndrome. It weakens immune systems. Chronic stress reduces immunity, and that is for sure, making employees more prone to illnesses. It leads to sleep disorders. Anxiety from toxic workplace often results in insomnia or disrupted sleep cycles. The irony is that companies that allow toxic work cultures to persist ultimately suffer greater financial losses through low retention, absenteeism, health claims, and reduced performance. You see, whenever I've been asked to review the performances of some organization, one of the important things I look for is their retention rate. I find that if I find staff retention is poor and there are frequent changes, they are re-recruiting for the same job, different people, first thing is there is something wrong with the job, not the person. So how do we counteract it? Can we have the next slide, please? Yes, there you go. So how do leaders and employees, how can they foster emotional stability together? This is my advice for leaders and employers. Please encourage open communication. Employees should feel safe discussing what stresses them, and they should do it without fear of retaliation. There need to be a recognized promotion of the work-life balance. I've heard this even earlier today, and this is so important. Overwork does not translate to productivity. Companies should understand it. Clever employers do, and most ordinary people understand it. Companies should respect personal boundaries. They should provide mental health support. That is so important and so often neglected. Because there was a time, and I hope it is still changing, where for someone to report that they've been anxious, it is often seen as a weakness, a bad thing, instead of offering them help. Employee assistance program in the West, they are called EAPs, and there is a concept called wellness days. They should have free access to therapy rather than be stigmatized when they require it. This can make a significant difference. And lastly, recognize and reward the contributions. Employees should feel valued and not invisible. Now, these are for the employees. You should set clear boundaries. Do not allow work to consume your personal time and your mental space. Develop emotional intelligence. This is a new concept. I hope many of you have already heard about it. Most people have. Emotional intelligence is regarded as more important than your average, you can measure intelligence these days. A psychologist with a bag of tricks, questions, pictures, give you tasks and test various cognitive functions like higher cerebral functions, in memory, different types of memory and all that. At the end of it, they give you a score and say you got X. 100 is said to be average. And higher, if you are Einstein, if you are a highly intelligent person, that is more valued. But emotional intelligence is far more valuable than the normal intelligence. So, what is it? It is emotional ability for emotional regulation, self-awareness, and handling stresses effectively are the skills that can be cultivated. And you know what? If you don't have it, you can learn it. It is not like you got it, if you haven't got it, that's for all good. You can be trained to be more emotionally intelligent. One very important thing is you must know when to walk away. No job, my dear listeners, no job is worth a mental breakdown. Recognizing a toxic environment and having an exit strategy is crucial. Lastly, build strong support systems. Having mentors, colleagues, or professional support can help navigate difficult situations. Companies that prioritize emotional stability and mental well-being are see higher employee engagement, lower turnover rates, and better business outcomes. We must challenge the outdated notion that stress, burnout, and overwork are badges of honor. They are not. They are warning signs of a broken system. It is time, therefore, to redefine success in professional life. True success is not about climbing the corporate ladder at the cost of one's sanity. It is about creating meaningful, fulfilling careers within the work environment that respect human dignity. Can we have the next slide, please? Instead, let us work towards a future where emotional stability is seen as a professional strength, not a personal trait. Toxic workplaces are to be held accountable, and employee well-being is non-negotiable. Success is defined not by exhaustion, but by fulfillment. It is at the end of the day, how fulfilled do you feel, not how exhausted you've been. A productive workplace is a healthy workplace. A healthy workplace is an emotionally stable workplace. Let us all work together to build work cultures that promote well-being, not just results. Because we very often see what are the results. There you are. The next slide. Good. That's it. Thank you. So these are the significance of emotional stability in the workplace. 1, enhanced decision making. Stable emotions allow for clear thinking, leading to better problem solving and strategic decisions. 2, improved interpersonal relationships, consistent with emotional responses that foster trust, fundamental, that foster trust and collaboration among colleagues. Because if you distrust your own colleagues, you cannot be in a happy place. 3, increased productivity. Employees who manage their emotions effectively are more focused and are more efficient. And finally, leadership effectiveness. Leaders with high emotional stability can inspire, can motivate their teams, even in challenging times. Now, this fosters give me a moment. Yeah. Improved interpersonal relations. Stability is crucial. Can we have the next slide, please? These are the common causes of emotional instability. 1, excessive workload. Taking on more tasks than one can handle leads to stress and burnout. I've seen too many nurses and too many low-level employees in banks and other organizations where they say, don't worry, give it to me, I'll do it. If you keep taking on more tasks than you can handle, you're asking for trouble. Secondly, lack of control. Feeling powerless in one's own role that can cause frustration and anxiety. It will slowly build up on you. Thirdly, work-life balance. This is work, that is your personal life, personal time. There should be a clear balance between the two. Neglecting personal life for work commitments disrupts your emotional well-being. Toxic work culture, negative environments characterized by bullying, discrimination, or lack of support severely impacts emotional health. That's fundamental. So, that's right, excellent, thank you. How do you identify emotional instability? There you are, you have it on your screen. There are physical signs, there are emotional signs, and there are behavioral signs. Physical signs are obviously fatigue, headaches, changes in your appetite. Emotional signs are irritability, mood swings, and feelings of being overwhelmed. I'm sure as I take you through it, many of you will be familiar with it because you would have experienced it. Now, here is an interesting concept in behavior. Procrastination. I hope many of you know what it is. It is derived from, this again is not a category of any, this is not a mental illness, it is a characteristic. It is derived from the Latin word procrast. It is wait till tomorrow, put it off till tomorrow. It is a withdrawal from social interaction. Procrastination is often experienced by people who fear criticism. They feel, not today, I'll do it tomorrow. That is a form of withdrawal from social interaction, which surely leads to decreased performance. Next, toxic work culture. Let's take a closer look at it. A toxic work culture is characterized by pervasive negativity, where detrimental behaviors such as bullying, harassment, and discrimination become normalized. In such environments, employees often feel undervalued, unsupported, and constantly stressed. The psychological toll of working in these conditions can lead to severe mental health issues, including anxiety, depression, and burnout. Moreover, the ripple effects of toxic culture extend beyond individual well-being, leading to decreased organizational productivity, high turnover rates, and a tarnished company reputation. Addressing and transforming a toxic work culture is not merely a matter of employee satisfaction, but a critical component of organizational sustainability and success. Next slide, please. Turnover rate. Yep. As I mentioned before, high turnover rate stuff in your own organization is in the frequent changes. Somebody is leaving, another person coming, and that person leaves, another person coming. This is high turnover rate. You should immediately think there is something wrong with the job. Low morale, widespread dissatisfaction, and disengagement. This is very important. Prevalence of gossip and forming of cliques. Some people just get together. They try to exclude. You've seen this happen. Employees forming exclusive groups where other people don't have entry into. It leads to division. Can we have the next slide? Yes. Cause, I think there is a little, anyway, I'll just talk on what are the causes? Poor leadership, as I said before, ineffective communication, as I said before. Now, and unrealistic expectations. We've gone over it. Can we have the next slide, please? Next slide. Excellent. Very good. Another one. Next one, please. Excellent. Excellent. Preventing. How can we prevent it? Promote open communication. Recognize and reward efforts. Implement fair policies. Ensure consistent and transparent procedures. Provide support and resources. Offer counseling and stress management programs. This is where I have some experience in. Way back in the 1980s, I started one of the second stress management clinic, outpatient clinics in the city of London. What we call the city of London is 1 square mile, where before the Big Bang, I'll just digress from before the Big Bang and the world became digitalized. Before that, London is at zero meridian. Therefore, all the world's money in those days, at some point, your money, my money, everybody's money, from Japan, Tokyo Stock Exchange, and New York Stock Exchange on the other side, from India, everywhere, money crossed in London. Now, it's no longer the case. I'm just talking about what used to happen. So the financial district in London used to be enormous. And in the way back in the 1980s, I walked through the city of London and I said to myself, it's full of bankers and lawyers and accountants and anybody who deals with money. And I thought, none of these people look mentally ill to me, but they're all dysfunctional. They're all highly stressed. When the boom happens and when recession comes, the whole thing, they are constantly on edge. So preventing is what you have on your screen. Can we have the next slide, please? So here you are. These are strategies for maintaining emotional stability. My dear people, please work on your own self-awareness. This is a concept, an Eastern concept. It goes back to Buddha. Be self-aware. In the Western philosophy, from Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates, be aware. There was a notice in know thyself. That's what it is. It is regularly assessing your emotional state and identify your triggers. The triggers that set you up, set you going, may not be the same triggers that set the person next to you. 2, stress management techniques. Mindfulness meditation. I'm sure you all know it. I'm probably preaching to the converted. Mindfulness meditation. Practicing mindfulness can reduce stress and enhance emotional regulation. Physical activity, very important. Regular exercise. It releases endorphins in your body. It improves your mood. You should obviously learn about time management. Prioritizing tasks to prevent you becoming overwhelmed. When you know yourself, You will know when you need to. You should engage with your mentors, your peers, or your trusted counselors when needed. And it is the responsibility of the organizations to provide these people, qualified people who will treat whatever you tell them with great respect and confidentiality. And lastly, continuous learning. This is a concept that's been on for a long time, as long as I've been working, which is spanning over 4 decades more. Continue this lifelong learning. You never stop learning. You must attend workshops, you should attend seminars, and perhaps this evening may help you a little bit. You should learn about emotional intelligence, what resilience is, and how you can improve it. Now, there you are. I hope many of you know Abraham Maslow, who's a very famous psychologist. Positive psychology in the workplace. He said, a company implementing positive psychology in the workplace means creating an environment that is more enjoyable and productive. It values individual employees. This also means creating a work schedule that does not lead to emotional and physical distress. This is vitally important. Next slide, please. So, these are my conclusions for you. I thank you all for your time today. I hope you found at least some of what I had to say to be encouraging, and I encourage you to reflect upon these points and initiate small but meaningful changes in your own professional lives. If you have any questions or experiences to share, I'd love to hear them. Let's build a healthier future for work, one where emotional stability is the foundation and not an afterthought. Next slide, please. There you are. Maintaining emotional stability and fostering a positive work environment are not just individual responsibilities, but they are collective endeavors that require employee and leadership commitment together. By recognizing the signs of toxicity, implementing proactive strategies, and supporting one another, we can create workplaces where everyone thrives. Next slide, please. Perhaps some of you would, if you don't know it, perhaps you would like to take, write down or make a mental note of it. This I recommend this very highly for you to, for your further reading. Susan David's Emotional Agility is very, very good. Daniel Goleman, obviously, is the grandfather of emotional intelligence and the cognitive therapies. He's written a wonderful book called Emotional Intelligent Workplace. And Brain Brown is wonderful, Daring Greatly. It examines the power of vulnerability and its role in building resilience. Next slide, please. There you go. Now, it is very important that you look at what you might want to talk to me about. I'm very happy to discuss anything that comes in. I'm very happy to listen to your comments, observations, and you can please, those who don't feel shy, I'm a Malayali, you're a Malayali, we're all in good company. So you can speak in Malayalam. And Father Joe's the expert chairman we have tonight. He will direct you in how one need to go. But towards the end, Father Joe's, I'd like to say a few words to if Father Joe's, I wanted to ask you, can you ask people, do you require a few examples, practical examples of how emotional instability and when I was working, I can remember, I've made a note of it on my iPad. People have come to me with particular problems that had happened to. One is about a nurse in Germany. I was in London. Somebody came to ask my advice, and I can describe, if you want, I can describe that. And the other was a teacher in Italy. Would you like me to go through these couple of examples?
Yeah, sure. You can explain or give it the examples.
Right. Let me give you the scenario, the first one. The context is I was working as a consultant psychiatrist. I had my own practice. I had a hospital. I had lots of different hats to wear. So I was in a situation where people would reach out to me and ask advice. I was in a scenario I'll say to you. Anyway, it is all anonymized, and I'm not breaking any confidences in describing a scenario. Anjali was a 34-year-old pediatric nurse from Kerala working in a busy hospital in Germany. She was well trained, deeply compassionate, and had always been popular with both colleagues and patients' families. However, over a period of months, her colleagues began noticing changes. She seemed distracted, forgot small tasks, and occasionally broke into tears during shifts. One evening, she had a minor outburst at a colleague who asked her to double-check a medication chart, something very unlike her. Unknown to her team, Anjali was going through a painful separation from her husband back in India, whom she emotionally and financially. Her sense of guilt for leaving her young daughter with her elderly parents was eating away at her. She felt isolated, overwhelmed, and ashamed to speak up for fear of appearing to be unprofessional. Now, this nobody knew. None of her, when the problem was presented to me and I had the opportunity to review it, I discovered it. So what was the outcome? Essentially, Anjali made a drug error, a dosage error. Caught in time, thankfully, but it led to a formal disciplinary hearing. She broke down during the meeting and admitted that she had been unable to sleep, was experiencing panic attacks, and even having thoughts of self-harm. So broadly, this is the scenario, and what were the suggested interventions that I could think of? Provide mental health support access. So the first one I said. Hospitals and schools employing migrant workers must ensure easy and stigma-free access to confidential mental health services in the employee's own language with culturally sensitive therapists. Secondly, I said, Their line manager need training. The line manager is an immediate supervisor, should be trained to recognize early signs of emotional distress and offer non-judgmental, compassionate check-ins every now and then. A simple, how are you really doing today? And said, asked in a sincere and compassionate way, can be a game changer in such circumstances. Thirdly, I said she should have peer support, peer group support, creating a structure of peer support circles for international workers can help ease loneliness and normalize discussions about emotional well-being. That would not be a big, it should be normal. It should not be extraordinary. And lastly, flexible leave policies. Employers should introduce compassionate or emergency leave options, particularly for transitional workers dealing with family crises abroad. I hope I set the scene and you understand what was involved in that. I'll give you another scenario. I was asked for my opinion, my advice. I'm sorry, would you forgive me if I took my jacket off? Sorry, very unprofessional of me, I know. There you go. I was asked advice in a private English medium school in northern Italy. The management had a policy of total dedication from its teachers, many of whom were Malayali women living away from their families. The principal, when I reviewed it, was an authoritarian figure, often dismissed concern with remarks like, if you can't cope, there are 10 others ready to replace you. Her name was Meena. Well, it's a sort of not her name. I invented it. A 29-year-old science teacher, I think she was older. She looked older. Had been working there for 4 years. She was soft-spoken, never took a day off, routinely stayed after hours to help struggling students. However, the culture of silent overwork, unrealistic expectations, and constant micromanagement by her bosses began to wear her down. When she tried to raise her concern about bullying by senior staff members, she was accused of being oversensitive and was asked to keep the school's reputation in mind. A few weeks later, Meena collapsed during a staff meeting and was hospitalized for severe burnout with dehydration. She didn't have a heart attack or anything. Following this, 2 other teachers resigned, and a letter from the staff outlining toxic practices went viral within the community. Now, what was the outcome? The school was subjected to an inspection that had to revamp their human resources, their HR practices, and their staff policies. What were the suggested interventions that I could think of? I said, There should be anonymous feedback mechanism. Institutions should implement a 360-degree anonymous feedback system where staff can safely report issues without fear of retribution or reprisal. Secondly, I said leadership accountability. School and hospital leadership must undergo mandatory leadership training. Leaders are not born, they may claim to be born leaders, but they need training with a focus on empathy, with a focus on communication, and about staff well-being. Thirdly, I thought there should be a well-being audit, regular external audits of staff morale, independent, outside the organization. There should be an independent audit externally done of staff morale, of burnout levels, of workplace culture, and it should be made part of compliance checks, just like academic or in hospitals or clinical audits. Lastly, I said workplace mental health policy is vital. Organizations must have clear written policy on emotional safety and toxic behavior, with outlined consequences for repeat offenders, even at senior level. These are just, I've anonymized the whole thing as with it. I'm not breaking any confidences of anybody, but these are, I set the scene. I can only hope that what I've just described brings home to you who's listening, and I'm sure you can imagine the scenarios that I mentioned. I hope those two examples has brought home to you, to some level, at least, the importance of what happens in the workplace. Is that okay?
അത് തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും സഹായിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട് കുറേ കൂടി കാര്യങ്ങൾ മനസ്സിലാക്കാനായിട്ട് കേട്ടോ. എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു ഇനി ആർക്കെങ്കിലും ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അവർക്ക് ചോദിക്കാം. നമുക്ക് അങ്ങനെ അതിലേക്ക് പോയാലോ, ചോദ്യങ്ങളിലേക്ക്? ഡോക്ടർ? ഓക്കെ, സോ ഓക്കെ. ഡിഫറൻസ് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ആർക്കെങ്കിലും ഡോക്ടർ പറഞ്ഞ സംസാരിച്ച വിഷയത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് എന്തെങ്കിലും ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ക്ലാരിഫിക്കേഷൻസ് ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ഈ സമയത്ത് ചോദിക്കാം. ഇംഗ്ലീഷിലോ മലയാളത്തിലോ ചോദിക്കാം കേട്ടോ. ജോസേട്ടൻ ഇങ്ങനെ കൈപ്പൊക്കിയിട്ടുണ്ട്, ചോദിക്കാനാണോ?
Yes.
ഓക്കെ, ചോദിച്ചോളൂ കേട്ടാ.
But video is muted.
Sorry, I didn't get it. ഒന്നോട് പറഞ്ഞേ.
ജോസേട്ടൻ ഒന്നുകൂടെ ക്ലിയർ ആയിട്ട് പറയാമോ?
Yes. Doctor, thank you very much for your lively, very educative and informative session on stress in workplace. I was rather very eagerly looking forward to your class. Especially, you must be knowing this post-COVID scenario in many corporate levels, corporate companies. Much layoffs are happening, and existing employees are loaded with more work. This is leading to excess, work pressure on the employees. And as you know, in many companies, these young workers are having lifestyle diseases from early ages, like 40 years onwards. They are having medicines for lifestyle diseases. So in these scenarios, and especially after a recent chartered accountant, the girl from Pune had to resort to suicide because of work pressure in a very corporate law firm. So with all these things in the background, your class was, I was looking forward to your class. So thank you very much for your wonderful class, sir. One thing which I wanted to discuss with you is that even though when I am not happy with the work environment I'm in no cool mood to walk away as easily as I think, because I may be the only bread earner for the family. Or getting a job in a scenario like Indian scenario, it is not that simple. So I will end up with living in the that I'm in. So my challenge is to stay back and continue with the stress that I am having. So what I find from your class is that one's own personal mindfulness, like meditation. Second thing is that the self-awareness and meeting the peers and discussing with them regarding my issues are the solutions that I am having in front of me in such situations. So can you kindly have your thoughts on those things? Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jod. ഞാൻ repeated ആയിട്ട് പറഞ്ഞ ഒരു point is personalized what you can do in meditation and areas. അതിന്റെ importance I understand. പക്ഷേ the organization need to provide mental health support. Other you have not you need to, at times like this, another person, a qualified independent third person who you can go to. And because I understand, your foreign workers in Britain, there are so many now with the immigration crisis in the world that's going on. There are hundreds of thousands of people coming. So these are situations that are very, very, very likely, and they are very real. Adukunda, it is very important that there should be while you should make your own efforts at meditation with things that you mentioned, I think the organization has a responsibility to provide mental health support. Once you can go to a person, a professional qualified person whose confidentiality and respectability is assured, avaroda is open ചെയ്താല് many other solutions will open up on the side. The lack of it, I find, is fundamental deficiency. അതിനൊരു avenue ഇല്ലാതെ വരുമ്പോൾ you're fighting with yourself, and there are grave limitations. Is that making sense to you? Have you got?
Yes, yes.
I'm older than you, so.
സാറിന്റെ ക്ലാസ് എനിക്ക് ഇഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടു. പക്ഷേ സാറ് ആ ഡിബേറ്റ് കേട്ടിട്ടുണ്ടോ എന്ന് എനിക്കറിയത്തില്ല. As late as in the last 1 month or so, or just before that, many corporate biggies have told, the CEOs have told that it is okay to work 14 hours a week, 14 hours a day for techies, which is unimaginable. I worked in a corporate sector for 30 plus years. And when I was about to retire, the work culture was that employees had to stay back as late as 2 a.m. in the morning to report out their per day work. And the same employees had to come back next day 9 o'clock for work. So post all these debates and the issues and all these incidents which have come, some companies have come out with employee assistance programs and counseling and this. But what I have experienced is that it will always be overshadowed by corporate targets and the business needs. Employees in welfare will always take a back seat
Other,
in India. In India.
it is in India. You know, you mentioned the girl who died in Pune. That is what prompted me to write an article, and which I can't remember where it was published. And what we are having today resulted from that. It is so in that, and I've repeatedly said in my talk, the employee, the overwork. In India, I find it astonishing. I've been living in this country for the last 11 years since we relocated from London. My wife and I, here, very senior, very national figures have said, what, 60 hours work should be normal. And
Yes.
they are glorifying overwork.
Exactly.
Glorifying overwork is just as bad as glorifying violence or glorifying war or glorifying anything that is undesirable and bad. And I'm astonished that there is no society leaders are not. I have not even heard a single word from a Christian leader who says this is wrong.
Exactly. Yes.
ജോസേട്ടാ പ്ലീസ് നമുക്ക് ചിലപ്പോൾ വേറെ ആരെങ്കിലും ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ ചോദിക്കാനുണ്ടാകും. അതുകൊണ്ട് അപ്പൊ നമുക്ക് വേറെ ആരിലേക്കെങ്കിലും പോകാം. ആർക്കെങ്കിലും ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ ചോദിക്കാനുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ദയവായിട്ട് ഇപ്പൊ ചോദിക്കാം. ഷോർട്ടായിട്ട് ചോദിക്കാൻ പറ്റുവാണെങ്കിൽ കൂടുതൽ നല്ലതാണ്. ഡോക്ടർ, ഒരു സംശയം ചിലപ്പോൾ എല്ലാവർക്കും അത് കിട്ടിക്കാണല്ലോ ഡോക്ടർ ജോൺ. അതായത് ഡോക്ടർ ഇമ്പോസ്റ്റർ സിൻഡ്രോമിനെ കുറിച്ച് പറഞ്ഞു. അതൊന്ന് കുറച്ചും കൂടി ഇമ്പോസ്റ്റർ സിൻഡ്രോം അതിനെ കുറിച്ച് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അത് ചിലപ്പോൾ എല്ലാവർക്കും അതിന്റെ മീനിങ് കിട്ടിയിട്ടുണ്ടാവില്ല. എന്താണെന്നൊന്ന് എക്സ്പ്ലെയിൻ ചെയ്താൽ ചിലപ്പോൾ നല്ലതായിരിക്കും.
Yes, very good. Thank you so much. What an interesting question. I wrote an article which was published in Manorama's The Week magazine, and I wrote 2 articles. One was about a study of narcissism. Narcissism, it is we have living examples in the world today. Isn't that direct opposite? If narcissism is, let me characterize it, it's a bit like, I like me, who do you like? In the people who undervalue themselves. ഞാനൊരു imposter ആണ്. I don't deserve it. I'm just overvalued എന്ന് തന്നെത്താനെ undervalue ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു situation, mental health situation. As I said, nowhere in the world whereas narcissism has been classified, it is in the American DSM-3, the British International ICD classification, the narcissism under you can, but nowhere there's imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is a very, very, very important. Without my data in front of me, I can't tell you the prevalence rate, but there are figures. It commonly, it happens to women, middle-aged women, and more than young men and older men. They feel they are it commonly happens to people who are highly achieved. They are highly qualified, intellectually, very profoundly clever people. They undervalue themselves. It's an imposter syndrome. I'm an imposter, I'm here. I'm just an actor. I don't deserve. My name is Joel John. I'm nobody. But people, you think I am something great, but I'm actually nobody. And then feeling that's a very pervasive, damaging condition to have. Other need to be corrected. It need to be recognized. it needs support. Tannatane, you can look into the mirror and say, "Oh, I'm much better." But if you're validated by somebody else, somebody says, "Rose, you're wonderful." If you look into the mirror and say to yourself, "Rose, you're wonderful," if you say that to yourself 5 times a day, I'm sure it'll make a difference.
ഓക്കെ ഡോക്ടർ, ഇറ്റ്സ് ക്ലിയർ. അതായത് സ്വയം വില കുറച്ച് കാണുക, ഞാനൊന്നും നേടിയില്ല, ഞാൻ ആരുമല്ല എന്ന് ചിന്തിക്കുന്ന ഒരു സംഗതിയാണ്.
അതെ.
നാർസിസിസത്തിൽ ഞാൻ എല്ലാം ആണെന്ന് കരുതുന്ന ഒരു ആറ്റിറ്റ്യൂഡ് സെൽഫിഷ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള വല്ലാത്ത ഓവർ സെൽഫിഷ്. ഓക്കെ, വേറെ ആർക്കെങ്കിലും ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ ചോദിക്കാനുണ്ടോ? ഇല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമ്മൾ ഒരു 10 minutes ഉള്ളൂ. അപ്പോ നമ്മൾ താങ്ക്സ് പറയുന്നതിന് മുമ്പ് ഡോക്ടർക്ക് ഒരു വാക്ക് പറയാനുണ്ടെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നല്ലേ?
അതെ അതെ. എനിക്ക് I'm enormously grateful to all of you. എനിക്കൊരു കാര്യം ഇത് കൺക്ലൂഡ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറയാന്, to conclude today's discussion on emotional stability at work and toxic culture, I'd like to share a reflection of a prayer, and this is not a religious, a prayer that has provided solace and guidance to many navigating life's complexities. It is called the Serenity Prayer, and it goes something like this. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. This is, in my working life, this is something that I've used repeatedly and very effectively. Very often, if we had a group therapy session, we'd start the session with this prayer. What are the origins of this? This poignant invocation is attributed to the American theologian Reinhold Niebuhr. He was born in 1892 in Wright City, Missouri, and Niebuhr became a significant figure in modern theology, known for addressing the interplay between faith, ethics, and public affairs. He composed his Serenity Prayer as early as 1930, with its first documented use in a sermon delivered in 1943 at the Health Evangelical Union Church in Massachusetts. Reinhold Niebuhr was a man behind this prayer. Niebuhr's career was marked by a commitment to applying Christian ethics to societal issues. He served as a professor of Union Theological Seminary in New York for over 3 decades. He influenced both theological thought and public policy in America. I'm British, but it is a very significant figure. His work included Moral Man and Immoral Society, and the nature of and destiny of man. These 2 narratives delve into the complexities of human nature and morality. What is the meaning and significance of this prayer? I'd like to just summarize and tell you this. The Serenity Prayer encapsulates a timeless wisdom that resonates across various contexts, particularly in managing workplace challenges. The first thing is serenity to accept the things I cannot change. This line encourage us to find peace in acknowledging aspects beyond our control, be it in organizational policy, the behavior of colleagues, or unforeseen changes. Acceptance doesn't imply approval, but rather a conscious decision to release the stress associated with resistance. മനസ്സിലാകുന്നുണ്ടെന്ന് വിചാരിക്കുന്നു. Secondly, the second sentence in that prayer is the courage to change the things I can. What does that mean? Here the emphasis is on taking proactive steps towards areas within our own influence. This could involve improving our own skills, setting healthy boundaries, or fostering a supportive team environment. Courage is essential to initiate and embrace change. And lastly, the wisdom to know the difference. Discernment is crucial. The മനസ്സിലാക്കണം. Understanding the boundary between what we can and cannot change allows us to allocate our energy very effectively, preventing burnout and promoting emotional well-being. This prayer gained widespread recognition when it was adopted by Alcoholics Anonymous. നമുക്കൊക്കെ അറിയാമല്ലോ AA ഒരു fundamental prayer ആയിരുന്നു. Every AA meeting that I know starts with this. Even Narcotics Anonymous, these are self-help groups. നിങ്ങൾക്കൊക്കെ അറിയാമെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു. And it has been used by them in the 1940s, becoming the cornerstone in various recovery programs. In the context of our discussion of emotional stability and toxic work cultures, the Serenity Prayer serves as a guiding light. It reminds us to cultivate acceptance where change is beyond our reach, to summon the courage to act where we can make a difference, and to develop the wisdom to navigate between the two. Embracing these principles can lead to a more balanced, resilient, and fulfilling personal life. ഇത് പറയുമ്പോൾ all the stress in something that happens outside you, you cannot control. അത് നമ്മൾ proper ആയിട്ട് മനസ്സിലാക്കണം. What you can control is your reaction to it. നമ്മുടെ outside us, something happens, we cannot control our environment. And I've treated a lot of patients who are controllers now. Controllers. I have a person well known to me in my own family, very closely related to me. I say he is a controller because he tries to control his environment with his family or friends or other. That is for his own benefit. I said, you do that. That's a recipe for disaster. You cannot control something outside you, but you can control your reaction from within. Other self-control. I hope that makes a difference and understanding. I thank you all for your generosity, your kindness, and thank you for listening to me. And I'm immensely grateful. Thank you so much.
ഡോക്ടർ ഒരു മിനിറ്റ്, ഞങ്ങളുടെ സൈക്കോളജിസ്റ്റ് അനഘ ഒരു വാക്ക് നന്ദി പറയും. അതിനുശേഷം നമ്മൾ മീറ്റിംഗ് അവസാനിപ്പിക്കുന്നതാണ്. അനഘ പ്ലീസ്.
ഹലോ, ഓഡിയബിൾ ആണോ?
കേൾക്കാം.
ഓക്കെ. സോ
Okay.
ഗുഡ് ഈവനിങ് വൺ ആൻഡ് ഓൾ. നമുക്കൊരു നല്ലൊരു സെഷനാണ് സാർ തന്നത്. സോ ഇന്നത്തെ എൻ്റെ ഇവിടുത്തെ ഡ്യൂട്ടി എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് വോട്ട് ഓഫ് താങ്ക്സ് ആണ്. ഫസ്റ്റ് ആൻഡ് ഫോർമോസ്റ്റ് ഡീപ്പസ്റ്റ് താങ്ക് ടു ടീം ഡോക്ടർ John, British Emeritus consultant psychiatrist, for the enlightening and thoughtful provoking sessions on the importance of emotional stability at workplace and toxic work culture. നമ്മൾ പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് ഇന്നത്തെ ദിവസം, ഇന്നലെ നമ്മൾ കൊച്ചിയിൽ നടന്നൊരു പ്രോബ്ലം കണ്ടതാണ്. വർക്ക് പ്ലേസിൽ അവരുടെ സെയിൽസ്, നമ്മുടെ ആനുവൽ സെയിൽസിന്റെ മീറ്റ് ചെയ്തില്ല എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് അവരെന്തുമാത്രം ടോക്സിക് ആയിട്ട് അവരുടെ വർക്ക് കൾച്ചറിലുള്ള ആൾക്കാർ അവരെ ട്രീറ്റ് ചെയ്തെന്നുള്ളത്. സോ എങ്ങനെ ഒരു ടോക്സിക് വർക്ക് കൾച്ചർ ഐഡന്റിഫൈ ചെയ്യാം, അവിടെ നിന്ന് എങ്ങനെ പുറത്തു വരാം എന്നുള്ളത് സർ ഭയങ്കര നന്നായിട്ട് അതിൽ പിക്ചറൈസ് ചെയ്ത് നമ്മുടെ ഭയങ്കരമായിട്ട് പിക്ചറൈസ് ചെയ്ത് കാണാൻ പറ്റി സാറിന്റെ ഓരോ വാക്കിലും എല്ലാം. സോ എ ബിഗ് താങ്ക്സ് ടു സർ ഫോർ ഗിവിംഗ് യുവർ ടൈം, പ്രഷ്യസ് ടൈം. പിന്നെ നെക്സ്റ്റ് ഐ വുഡ് ലൈക്ക് ടു താങ്ക് ഓൾ ദ പാർട്ടിസിപ്പൻസ് ഹു അറ്റൻഡഡ് ദിസ് സെഷൻ. 1.5 hour സെഷൻസ്, വീക്കെൻഡ് ആണ്, സൺഡേ ആണ്, ഫാമിലിയോട് സ്പെൻഡ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ടൈമിലും അവരിത് ഭയങ്കര ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആയിട്ട് എടുത്ത് ഈ ഒരു സെഷനിൽ ടേക്ക് പാർട്ട് ചെയ്തതിന് ഐ വുഡ് ലൈക്ക് ടു താങ്ക് എവരിവൺ. പിന്നെ ഈ ഒരു സെഷൻ നമുക്ക് വേണ്ടി പ്രൊവൈഡ് ചെയ്ത് തന്ന ഫാദർ ജോസ് ആൻഡ് ഫാദർ ജോപ്പോൾ, താങ്ക്സ് ടു ബോത്ത് ഓഫ് യു ടു പ്രൊവൈഡിങ് ദിസ് വണ്ടർഫുൾ സെഷൻ. ഇതിന്റെ പിന്നിൽ പ്രവർത്തിച്ചതിനും നമ്മൾ പറഞ്ഞ ഓരോ സജഷൻസും എല്ലാം എല്ലാവർക്കും ഇത് വിസിബിൾ ആക്കാനായിട്ടും അല്ലെങ്കിൽ എല്ലാവർക്കും ഇത് അവൈലബിൾ ആവാനായിട്ട് യൂട്യൂബ് ലിങ്കും എല്ലാം നമ്മൾ പ്രൊവൈഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ടായിരുന്നു, ക്ലാസ്സസ് റെക്കോർഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. സോ ആ ഒരു ടെക്നിക്കൽ സപ്പോർട്ടിനും പിന്നെ നമ്മുടെ ഒപ്പം നിന്നതിനും എല്ലാം ബോത്ത് ഓഫ് ദ ഫാദേഴ്സ് ഐ വുഡ് ലൈക്ക് ടു താങ്ക്. സോ അത് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് പിന്നെ നമ്മുടെ ഇതില് മറിഞ്ഞിരുന്നു, പക്ഷെ എന്നാലും നമ്മുടെ ഒരുപാട് ഹെൽപ്പ് ചെയ്ത് അവരില്ലെങ്കിൽ ഈ പ്രോഗ്രാം, ടെക്നിക്കൽ ഫീൽഡില്ലെങ്കിൽ ഈ പ്രോഗ്രാം നടക്കില്ല. സോ നമ്മുടെ ടെക്നിക്കൽ ഫീൽഡിൽ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്ന നിവേദിതയുടെ റീജൻ റിജു, പിന്നെ നമ്മുടെ സനിച്ചേട്ടൻ നമ്മുടെ എല്ലാ പ്രോഗ്രാംസിനും ടെക്നിക്കലി നമ്മളെ ഹെൽപ്പ് ചെയ്യുന്നതാണ്. ഇന്നും ചേട്ടന്റെയും റിജുവിന്റെയും ബ്രദർ റിജുവിന്റെയും സപ്പോർട്ട് ഹെൽപ്പും ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നതിലും ഐ വുഡ് ലൈക്ക് ടു താങ്ക് ബോത്ത് ഓഫ് ദം. സോ ഐ വുഡ് ലൈക്ക് ടു കൺക്ലൂഡ് മൈ വേർഡ്സ് ഹിയർ. സോ I'm really happy to join this meeting and meet you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Anaga. Doctor, once again, thank you on behalf of everyone who were present for the session. Thank you, all the participants. Thank you. Okay, Doctor, thank you.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ananda. Thank you.
And have a great weekend.